as we dig into history, we can easily stereotype the people that we run into in history. But sometimes when we read these journals, they can be very personal, and they really turn these journal writers into humans in the 18th century, so we can really get a grip on what life was like, or how much it was the same as life is today in some different ways. Today I'm looking at the journal or the itinerarium of Dr. Alexander Hamilton, written in about 1744. Now, this is a different Alexander Hamilton than you might know from the 18th century. He was a doctor. He lived in the Maryland area. I believe he brought up and trained in England, comes over to North America, and he lives in Maryland. He goes on a trip up the eastern seacoast for his health. He has consumption, or probably tuberculosis, and it's common in the time period that they would use travel as a way to increase your health, right? So he goes on a trip. He does a fantastic job of painting at least the picture of what it's like in New England. From his eyes, he's kind of he's definitely an outsider, fairly well-to-do here. He travels in luxury, basically. I mean, he's traveling by horse going up there, but he stops in lots of different places. Something to know about this part of the story is that when he's traveling, he's in very nice clothes most of the time. He even has a brace of pistols while he's traveling for his own protection, and he probably is cutting a path with the locals as he travels. He talks about people being very inquisitive about him as he's traveling, asks him lots of questions. He's probably dressed in very nice clothing as he goes. He travels up, and he spends a good deal of time in Boston, and this is the part of the journal that I'll be talking about. And in Boston, at that time, there was in the center of town a meeting house, a large building, 100 feet, 120 feet long, 40, 50 feet wide, one big room in the bottom section. It was called the Change, probably short for the Exchange, where gentlemen come together, and it's a place of public meeting. And in that location, you probably can get food, probably served from the local taverns and ordinaries that surrounded in that part of town. I don't think there was any place to cook food in the Exchange, but they probably got food from surrounding places, served you there. So lots of meetings were going on, people were eating, lots of that sort of thing. So here is Thursday, August 9th. I dined with Mr. Fletcher in the company of two Philadelphians who could not be easy because, forsooth, they were in their nightcaps, seeing everybody else in full dress with powdered wigs. It is not, being customary in Boston, to go to dine or appear upon the Change in caps such as they do in other parts of America. What strange creatures we are, and what trifles make us uneasy. It is no mean jest that such worthless things as caps and wigs should disturb our tranquillity and disorder our thoughts when we imagine they are worn out of season. I was myself much in the same state of uneasiness with these Philadelphians, for I had a great hole in the lappet of my coat, to hide which I employed so much of my thoughts in the company that, for want of attention, I could not give a pertinent question or pertinent answer when I was spoken to. So this paints a very, very human picture of Dr. Alexander Hamilton in 1744. He was concerned about how he looked, obviously. He could tell that other people were concerned about how he looked, and he wanted to be proper in this public setting. So we definitely get an idea about what the Change was like in Boston in 1744. People were wearing their nicest clothes. This wasn't not a rough and tumble ordinary where people of a lower sort would necessarily come in and eat, or I guess people were definitely, let's say, delineated by their clothing. And these Philadelphians were concerned about that. It's like, ooh, we wore the wrong thing, right? So that happens to us today, and it happened to these folks a lot in the 18th century. And you could see by this that things were different in different parts of the country, too. Philadelphia, that was a normal thing to do. Boston, a very not normal thing to do. So we learn here that there's a tremendous quantity of regionality going on in the colonies in this mid-18th century period. Customs are very different. Mr. Hamilton gets questioned along the road many different times about his appearance or what Maryland was like. People were very inquisitive, knowing that Maryland was much different than where they were located. And that's one of the reasons why he goes on the trip. He talks about lots of different things along the trip and sort of the differences and the similarities, but mostly the differences. He really does paint a very, very interesting picture. He tells us about medical things along the way and how, he disagreed with a lot of the medical thoughts of doctors he runs into along the way. But again, a very, very interesting and very personal sort of journal here with this itinerarium. He didn't necessarily intend for this piece to be published, so it does have, he does describe things that he probably wouldn't do today. Some people, would be have a lighter hand about how they describe certain people and events. He cuts right to the quick and tells us exactly what he thinks. Dr. Alexander Hamilton's journal here, very, very interesting, paints a great picture of mid-18th century Boston and all up and down the East Coast. If you get a chance, check out this book. I'll put a link down in the description section. And I want to thank you guys for coming along as we go through these sort of little excursions into history, whether it's food or a journal reading or trying something out or going to a historic site. We delve in history a lot of different kinds of ways to get a clearer picture so that we understand history and we can understand ourselves. So thank you for all your amazing support, your great comments. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe because that way you get notification of new videos that are coming out all the time. And thanks for watching today.